Here is a pattern I have seen repeated so many times that it has stopped surprising me. A man starts trying harder to create intimacy, initiating more, reaching out more, putting in more visible effort, and the woman becomes colder. Not more responsive, not more engaged, just increasingly distant. And the more he pushes, the worse it gets. That is not random. That is completely predictable. Because female desire does not respond to pressure the way most men expect it to. It follows a completely different set of rules. And if you do not understand those rules, you will keep unintentionally doing the things that switch her off while genuinely trying to do the opposite. I want to be very clear about what this conversation is and what it is not. This is not about tactics or strategies. This is not about manipulation.
This is about real female psychology. Honest, science-backed, sometimes uncomfortable truths about how desire actually works in women. The kind of truths that, once you understand them, will shift not just how you approach intimacy, but how you show up in your relationship entirely. Because here is what most men never realize until it is too late. The problems that show up in the bedroom almost never begin in the bedroom. They begin much earlier, in the daily moments, the emotional patterns, the ways of showing up or not showing up that accumulate quietly over time until she has pulled so far back that the distance feels impossible to close. Today we are going to talk about 6 of those truths. Stay with me through all of them. Because the final one, the one that explains why desire quietly disappears in long-term relationships, is the one most men never fully understand, even when they are living inside the consequences of not understanding it. Welcome back to Secrets Inside the Mind. I am Liza. Every single day on this channel, we have honest, real conversations about human psychology, attraction, and the truths about connection that most people are too afraid to say clearly. If you are not subscribed yet, then please do that right now and turn on your notifications. I post every day, and I genuinely want you here for every conversation. Now let us get into this. The foundation. Why this conversation matters. Before we get to the 6 truths, I want to establish something that will make everything else land properly. Most men approach intimacy as a destination, something to get to, something to initiate and secure. And when a woman is not responsive, when she seems distant or disengaged or simply not interested, the natural instinct is to try harder, to initiate more, to find the right moment or the right approach that will finally produce the response they are looking for.
But that entire framework misses something fundamental about how female desire actually works. For most men, desire functions like a switch. It turns on quickly, often without much preparation or context. A visual cue, a physical sensation, a moment, and the switch is on. For most women, desire does not work like a switch. It works like a system. A complex, context-dependent, emotionally interconnected system that can only function properly when specific conditions are met. Conditions that have almost nothing to do with what happens in the bedroom and everything to do with what happens in the hours, days, and weeks before you ever get there. When you understand this one distinction, when you genuinely internalize that her desire begins somewhere completely different from where yours does, almost everything about her behavior starts to make sense in a way it never did before. With that foundation in place, let us go through the 6 truths.
Before we get into the first truth, please subscribe to Secrets Inside the Mind right now. I am Liza. I post every single day, and every video is a real honest conversation about human psychology and attraction. Hit that subscribe button, and let us get into this. Truth 1. Her desire begins in her mind, not her body. The first truth is the one that, if you miss it, makes everything else impossible to understand. For a woman, desire does not start in her body, it starts in her mind. And specifically, it starts in how she has been feeling, in the emotional residue of her recent experiences with you, in how you made her feel earlier that day, or yesterday, or in the accumulation of the past week. The way you looked at her over breakfast, the way you spoke to her during a stressful moment, the tension you created or the tension you quietly killed in small interactions throughout the day, all of that feeds into whether her desire is available when you want to access it later. This means something uncomfortable that most men need to sit with. If her previous experiences with you have been emotionally flat, if she has felt overlooked, unappreciated, or just invisible in the ordinary moments of your day together, her desire does not stay neutral. It fades. Slowly, silently, without any dramatic announcement. Until one day it feels like it simply disappeared. It did not disappear. It went dormant because the conditions that generate it stopped being present. So when you find yourself wondering why she does not seem interested anymore, the real question is not what happened to her desire. The real question is, when did you stop creating the conditions that produce it? Because that is where the answer always lives. Not in something she did or stopped doing, in what the emotional environment between you became over time. Her body follows her mind, and her mind follows how safe, seen, and genuinely desired she feels in your presence. When those things are present, her body responds naturally. When they are absent, no amount of physical initiation will fill the gap. Truth 2, she does not need to feel attracted, she needs to feel chosen. The second truth is where most men get things fundamentally backwards, and where the most common pattern of declining intimacy in long-term relationships actually begins. A woman's desire is not primarily driven by how attractive you are. It is driven by how desired she feels by you, specifically, consistently, in a way that communicates not just that you find her attractive in general, but that you are actively, presently, genuinely choosing her. Early in a relationship, most men do this naturally. They pursue, they flirt, they notice her, they make her feel seen and specifically wanted, and her response is effortless because the feeling that feeds her desire is constantly being supplied. But then something shifts. Comfort sets in. You stop initiating the small moments of pursuit. You assume she already knows how you feel. You move your energy elsewhere. Work, other responsibilities, the general drift of a life that has gotten busy, and without realizing it, you remove the very thing that was feeding her desire. She does not feel ugly. She does not feel rejected in an obvious way. She feels ordinary, and ordinary is the quiet killer of female desire. Because for a woman, feeling desired is not a luxury or a preference. It is the fundamental condition that makes her desire for you possible. When that feeling is consistently present, when she senses that you still actively choose her, that you still notice her, that your attention is still genuinely directed at her specifically, her response is natural and effortless. When that feeling is absent, she does not chase it. She waits, and eventually she adjusts to its absence. And once that adjustment is complete, recreating desire requires rebuilding the entire emotional foundation, not just initiating more. Rebuilding. Attraction does not die because of time. It dies because of neglect. Not dramatic neglect. Quiet neglect. The accumulation of ordinary days where she was not made to feel specifically, actively chosen. Truth 3. Her day does not reset the way yours does. The third truth is one that creates enormous friction in relationships precisely because it is almost invisible to the person causing it. Most men experience a mental reset at the end of a working day. The stresses of the day close, attention shifts, and a new headspace becomes available. You come home and, often without even thinking about it, you are present in a new way. The day is behind you. Her day does not reset like that. Think about what she is actually carrying when you see her at the end of the day. Work pressure, unfinished tasks, mental lists of things that still need to happen, possibly responsibilities related to your home, your family, other people in her life who need things from her. Her mind does not clock out. It continues processing, continuing managing, continuing organizing, even when the physical activity has stopped. And into that crowded mental space, you arrive wanting connection, wanting access, expecting her to be available in a way that requires her to be fully present when she is genuinely not. Here is the part men often miss entirely: when she feels like the only moment you become fully attentive and warm toward her is when you want physical intimacy, when that is the primary context in which she receives your full focus on Kershi King. She does not experience that as desire. She experiences it as being used, as being a resource rather than a person. And once that perception forms, her body responds accordingly, not as a choice.
As a completely natural, protective response to feeling like her emotional and mental reality is invisible to you. For her, support is not separate from intimacy. It is part of it. Attentiveness is part of it. Helping carry the invisible weight of her day is part of it. When she feels genuinely supported, when her stress has room to decompress, when she feels like you actually see what she is managing, that creates the space in which her desire can exist. Without that space, desire has nowhere to live. We are halfway through, and the final 3 truths go even deeper, the last one especially. Before we get there, please subscribe to Secrets Inside the Mind if you have not already. I am here every single day, and I do not want you to miss what is coming next. She cannot open physically if she does not feel safe emotionally. The 4th truth is the one that explains more disconnection in long-term relationships than almost any other single factor.
A woman cannot fully open to physical intimacy with someone she does not feel emotionally safe with. And I want to be precise about what emotional safety means here, because it is not the obvious kind. It is not about physical safety. It is about the safety to be vulnerable, to relax completely, to let go of the self-monitoring and self-management that most people maintain almost constantly in their daily lives. For a woman, physical intimacy is not just physical exposure. It is emotional exposure. When she opens to you in that way, she is not just letting you into her body. She is letting you into a deeply unguarded version of herself. And that requires a level of trust that cannot be manufactured in the moment. It has to be built consistently across time through hundreds of small, ordinary interactions. Here is what breaks it. You are emotionally distant during the day, distracted, checked out, possibly dismissive in ways you do not even notice. And then later, when it is convenient for you, you want closeness. You switch modes. But she cannot switch modes the way you can, because in her world, the emotional tenor of the entire day is connected to what happens at night. When she does not feel emotionally held, when she has spent the day feeling invisible or irrelevant or like a second priority, her system does something completely natural. It protects her. She closes. Not as a punishment or a power play, as a protective response to the accurate perception that the environment does not feel safe enough for that level of vulnerability. Emotional safety is built in patterns, in how you listen, in how you respond when she is stressed or struggling, and the thousands of small moments where she either feels genuinely seen or quietly overlooked. All of that accumulates, and it all carries into the bedroom, which means you do not lose her desire in the bedroom. You lose it long before you ever get there. Truth 5. For her, intimacy is a reflection, not an engine. The 5th truth is the one that explains why so many men find themselves trapped in a cycle they do not understand and cannot seem to escape. For most men, physical intimacy feels like the center of the relationship, the confirmation that everything is working, the proof of connection, and when it fades, the natural instinct is to pursue it more directly, to initiate more, to try harder to make the intimacy happen. For most women, intimacy is not the center. It is a reflection of everything that is happening in the relationship outside of those moments. It reflects how she feels day to day, how appreciated she feels, how present she perceives you to be, how connected or disconnected the emotional fabric between you has become. This creates a fundamental mismatch. You think, if we fix the intimacy, everything will feel better. She thinks, if everything feels right, the intimacy will follow naturally. You are trying to repair the outcome. She is responding to the foundation. So when you increase pursuit in response to declining intimacy, she does not experience that as desire. She experiences it as pressure applied to something that is already out of balance. And pressure on something that is out of balance does not restore it. It exposes the imbalance more clearly. This is why the cycle is so difficult to escape once it starts. The less intimacy he receives, the more he pursues it. The more he pursues it, the more pressure she feels. The more pressure she feels, the further she withdraws, and both people end up confused and hurt, genuinely not understanding what the other person needs. The shift that breaks the cycle is not more initiation, it is understanding what intimacy actually reflects, and then tending to that foundation directly. When the connection feels genuinely good, when she feels seen and supported and specifically wanted in the everyday moments, intimacy does not require pursuit. It emerges naturally from the environment you have created together. Truth 6. If the experience does not fulfill her, she will quietly stop wanting it. And now we arrive at the final truth, the one that is rarely discussed openly, and that quietly determines the long-term trajectory of desire in most relationships. For a woman, the quality of the experience determines whether her desire grows or gradually disappears. And this is more complex than it might initially seem. Female pleasure is not automatic. It is not guaranteed. For most women, reaching genuine physical fulfillment requires specific attention, specific awareness, and a genuine focus on her experience rather than primarily on your own. When that attention is consistently present, when she regularly leaves an intimate encounter feeling genuinely fulfilled, rather than like she gave something and received little in return, her desire builds over time. She begins to associate intimacy with reward, with pleasure, with something worth seeking. But when that fulfillment is consistently absent, when she repeatedly gives and is not genuinely received, when the focus is primarily on your experience and only incidentally on hers, something begins to happen beneath the surface. She starts to associate intimacy with effort rather than reward, with performance rather than pleasure, with depletion rather than connection, and her desire responds accordingly. Not in a dramatic way, not with an argument or a declaration, just quietly, gradually, she stops craving something that has stopped offering her anything to crave. By the time a man notices this withdrawal, it has typically been building for a long time.
And the instinctive response, more initiation, more pressure, more pursuit, is precisely the wrong response. Because what she needs is not more frequency. She needs the quality of the experience to actually give her something worth returning to. This is the final piece of the picture, and it completes something important. Her desire begins in her mind. It is fed by feeling chosen. It requires emotional space to breathe. It depends on emotional safety to open fully. It reflects the quality of the connection rather than driving it. And it grows or fades based on whether the experience genuinely fulfills her. When all of those conditions are met, not perfectly, but consistently and genuinely, desire does not require chasing. It shows up on its own, because all the conditions that produce it are in place. Let me bring all 6 truths together, because the thread connecting them is the most important thing in this entire conversation.
Truth 1. Her desire begins in her mind, not her body. The emotional environment you create determines whether it is available. Truth 2. She does not need to feel attracted. She needs to feel chosen actively, presently, specifically chosen by you. Truth 3. Her day does not reset. Support, attentiveness, and emotional presence are not separate from intimacy. They are the foundation of it. Truth 4. She cannot open physically if she does not feel emotionally safe. And emotional safety is built across time and hundreds of ordinary moments. Truth 5. Intimacy is a reflection, not an engine. It reflects the quality of the connection rather than creating it. Truth 6. If the experience consistently does not fulfill her, her desire will quietly fade. Quality matters more than frequency. Every single one of these truths points toward the same shift. Stop trying to access intimacy on the surface while the real conditions that produce it remain unaddressed underneath.
Because the question that actually changes everything is not, how do I create more intimacy? It is, what kind of man am I being in all the moments before intimacy becomes possible? That question, answered honestly and lived consistently, is what changes everything. Now I want to hear from you, honestly. Which of these 6 truths hit closest to home? Which one describes something you have felt in your own relationship but never had the language for? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one and I genuinely care about what you share. If this video gave you something real today, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to Secrets Inside the Mind if you have not already. I am here every single day. I am Liza. I will see you tomorrow.